they have these stories, they have these things that have happened to them, but because they haven't addressed it or actually worked through it or even just wrote it down to say this is what happened, everything that's in the dark grows mold. Anything that's in the light continues to grow. So we just learning how to take those mistakes and what do you do with them?
What is going on? Welcome to an ETG session here on the School Site Corner. I'm your host, Joe Sims. Today, I have the luxury of speaking with MeLisa Collins. So MeLisa, tell us what's going on, and then we'll kind of get into some questions of why we're talking today.
Okay, so I'm MeLisa Collins. I am the owner and executive director of As I Am Girls Club. I work with young women between the ages of 10 and 25 on personal development skills. My most recent project is teaching young women how to write their stories. Been doing this for over 25 years. It's part of who I am. And I think that's about it.
Okay. You said the age group that you work with is 10 through 25.
Correct.
What specific about that age group, if you don't mind me asking?
10 is the age where they're pretty much able to grasp the concept that I'm talking about. And then 25 is about my cutoff where I feel like, we will probably still be able to make some changes.
Okay, perfect. The reason I ask that is because I do a lot of work with kids, and a lot of what we talk about here on these ETG sessions is setting goals. You know, you put your mind out there, you set an audacious goal, and how do you achieve that goal? You have to overcome certain obstacles. So in the business that you've built, As I Am, what are some of the obstacles that you've faced building that or that you're currently faced with?
So actually, ironically, in high school, my quote for graduating was, life is obstacles. You step on it, you step over it. Just know not to trip over that if you come to it again. So I've always lived by this principle that it's all about different obstacles. And when you get back to it again, just make sure that you're not tripping over the same thing or making the same mistake. So it's with any business, that's pretty much the same genre. It's don't keep making the same mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. Life is going to happen. You're not going to know which way to go. You're not going to file the correct paperwork. You may not have the right taxes filed. Just make sure that you change or do it better the next time. So since I've been doing this for 20 something years, this is the year that I decided I wanted to do everything right, have my board in order, everything right before I even got started, having my website out there, just making sure that I do it correctly. So I won't say that there's no perfect answer, but it's all about, asking people for those answers. But if you make a mistake, it's okay. Pick your face up and just, like I said, write that note down so that you don't repeat it.
Most definitely. You definitely have to learn from the mistakes because, and it's a lot of times how I think about it is you don't really know it's a mistake and how to learn from it until you've gone through it and you've actually hit those hard points. But then that's where you have to, meet it face to face and overcome it and, tell yourself the things that gets you through it.
Right.
Okay. Now, are these the kind of things that you talk about with the girls in the program that you've built?
Definitely. Actually, this writing series is about the mistakes that we've had in our lives and how important they are. So we're in the process of building the curriculum for it. But a lot of young women and young men, but I specialize in young women. A lot of young women have stories in their back, you already know, you're a psychologist. They have these stories, they have these things that have happened to them, but because they haven't addressed it or actually worked through it or even just wrote it down to say this is what happened, everything that's in the dark grows mold. Anything that's in the light continues to grow. So we just learning how to take those mistakes and what do you do with them? So that's kind of what I've always been about. And then, so now it's just like, okay, let me see if I can get some young women to write down these stories so that they can see that this may help somebody else. And what does that mean if you make this mistake? What is that for? So short story, I had a very, very traumatic situation happen when I was 18 years old. When I sat on that porch that day, I said, this is happening today for something I'm supposed to do later. So it's always been a mindset that everything that happens is for you to do something different later or for you to grow from it. And so I think that principle has carried me through.
Okay. Are there any other, I'm just thinking, as I am, it sounds pretty powerful and impactful in what you're building. Are there other businesses that you've built?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes, a couple. So we had a transportation service in 2009. That was a, I don't want to call it a fluke, but we came down here to do something completely different. And then we moved to this area and there was no transportation. So we bought 2 vans and a car and put them on the road and changed the dynamic of what was already in the city. My mother always told me, becoming an entrepreneur simply means finding a need and filling it.
Mhm.
So here we were in a city that didn't have any transportation, and the only thing they had was taxis. So we were like, okay, how do we take that same model, just tweak it a little bit? So instead of charging per mile, we just did flat rates. Anywhere we was in the Rockdale zone was $7, and then as soon as you went outside of Rockdale, it was $1 a mile. It was just really simple, and so we ran that business for 4 years, and then we sold it. Me and my husband we did rental property. Now that one right there was a hit. It was a head hitter because once you get into a property, you really can't get out of it. So we learned definitely to look before you leave. So
Mhm.
yeah, we had multiple properties, and that one was probably the most stressful business that we've ever done because first of the month, I think my hair started falling out. It was like, because you're waiting on people and rent. So, and then the last business that we've been in, and we've been doing this since 2013, I think. Nope, 2009. Is the OMG Look What I Found, which is an online business. We turned it into a physical store, and then we brought it back home. So we buy liquidation now. We would go out and find different products, put it online, sell it. And one thing I've learned about buying and selling is it will never go out of style.
Mhm.
It will always be a need for it. Somebody always wants what you have, and so it's always going to be there. So we've been doing that for 14 years, and now we decided to ramp it up, and that's pretty much what we do 95% of the time, other than when I'm doing the As I Am.
And that's actually how I know you, just because I remember my wife, she would be watching the Facebook lives and you're going on there selling at Flash and she's like, oh, what do you think about this? So I know you have something set up to where it's high demand, people are looking for it, those quick deals and stuff.
Right.
So you talk about building with As I Am and including the writing component. You talked to me a little bit about a book that you have finished or that you're working on. Can you tell me about that?
I am working on a book, but I wrote 2 books. The title was When I Grew Up, I Want to Be a Prostitute. And the second book is Death of an Independent Woman.
Okay.
So when I grew up, I Want to Be a Prostitute was specifically for young women who have been in abusive in abusive situations where they've been molested, raped, they were in foster care. The characters, there's 3 different characters, and how their stories look towards the end. And so it was a way to give people who work with this age group an idea of what it looks like on the other side of a girl who's been abused. So that was my first book, and it came from I was doing therapy in the schools in Jonesboro, where you would go in and just check in on them, do the day-to-day check. It was through an organization in Atlanta, and I was meeting with a young lady, and everything she was saying, nobody would believe her. I was the only person who really was just like, well, she said this. And so eventually she ended up running away, and it just broke my heart because I was like, she was screaming, this is what's wrong. And everybody was just like, no, that's not it. She was telling her family that she had been molested when she was 7. So fast forward, the day she ran away, I started writing that book. And I think it took me a month to write it. And I was just so heartbroken for her, because I was like, why do these young women have this voice, but then when they say something, they don't get heard? It was almost like they got stamped down. She got medicated. They put her in the medical hospital, everything. So I wrote that book for that reason, and just to kind of express what it looks like on the opposite side of abuse. But it also, Death of an Independent Woman was a follow-up with what those people look like as adults. So most of the things that I write about are about they're about social ill and putting a spin to it.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I like to do. I've been a social worker for 20, social worker field for over 20 years. I, for some reason, can't seem to run from it because it just keeps finding me. But so everything I write, I wanted to make sense for people to take that story and understand somebody else's plight. So that's why I decided to go after young women to say, hey, your story could help somebody. So why don't we, write it down? Because my book is When I Grow Up, I Want to Be a Prostitute. And it was so many people who emailed me or called me or texted me and said, I resonated with that book. Like, you made me feel normal.
For sure.
And that every time I say that out loud, it's amazing to me because, like, who resonates with when I grow up, I want to be a prostitute? So that's kind of why I love doing. Right now, I'm working on a project that is a Black superhero. And she's my favorite so far. Like, I'm so excited about this project. I am so excited. She's a young girl who is born addicted to, her parents were addicted to multiple drugs. And so the makeup has changed her metabolic system. And so she ends up growing up with these superpowers that she doesn't even understand and nobody around her understands. But she can hear, different things. So I'm excited about that project. I'm working on that right now.
For sure. That sounds like a nice, based on the other 2 books you've written, they kind of go in sequence to where you're building yourself. And now it's like you just take over with your superhuman power. So
right.
Yeah, I can see the transformation for sure. Now, you talked about, helping these young ladies find their voice. What are some hurdles that you've seen them overcome with expressing themselves? Is it not having the words, or is it just maybe stigma behind certain things? What have you noticed with?
Well, again, as the author of When I Grow Up, I Want to Be a Prostitute, you can't really tell your story without hurting somebody's feelings, because just like with Paris, I'm gonna call her name is Paris. Just like with Paris, which is the young lady I used to work with, nobody really wants to hear the truth. And unfortunately, it needs to be said. And I feel like if enough people say it, then you can't ignore it. And so when it comes to molestation, when it comes to sex abuse, when it comes to sexual assault, those things are kind of ignored and they're dumbed down, and you got shaming and blaming. And so if that's the case and enough people are saying, well, this is what happened to me and this is how it happened and this is how I feel, then maybe the conversation can be a little bit more open. And I'm going to give, like, a perfect example would be, I don't want to throw him out there, R. Kelly. All this stuff happened, and I saw so many people attack the women. And it was just like, wow, why do we always go after the women when they're expressing their hurt or when they're expressing their pain, regardless of whether or not their mom dropped them off and, they knew it. Sometimes you really just don't know. And so I always feel like that needs to be a little bit more of an open dialogue. When I wrote Prostitute, I was opening the conversation up. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about what it feels like to be molested. How do you, what does it look like for a teenager to go through that process? And when she hits 13 or 14 and you see this snap, you see this little girl who used to wear the little French braid, and now she got weed down her back. All her pictures is backwards, and she got this, the sachet Sanchez look instead of the cute girl. And then you just trying to figure out, well, how did that happen so quick? And so those are the conversations that need to be had so that when those little girls go to school, the teachers are not so confused when that happens. They can say, okay, wait a minute, maybe I need to ask, is she okay? Instead of, she's so fast, she's so hot, she always
quick to judge.
Quick to judge, real quick. And so the whole point was to make it so obvious that you can't say, I didn't know. So that's it.
Now, it sounds like you have great perspective being where you're at in the position that you're in and everything. How has that allowed you to open up to some of these young ladies that you see on a day-to-day basis, like your connectivity with them? How has that helped?
I always feel like that I've been gifted with this transparency that I don't even know how to hide. Like I think I embarrass my mom sometimes because I don't know how to hide. I don't know what to. So yeah, I don't have fear of sharing my story. And so they don't have fear of talking to me most of the time. When I left Cleveland this last time in 2017, I was working with a group of girls at a high school. Wait, real quick, funny story. I was working with a guy. He had a group of kids that were like the ones who couldn't really read. Mm-hmm. His student came in and said, she had a book in her hand. And he was like, where'd you get that book from? And he was like, she said, my mom's sister, somebody gave it to me. It was my book. and she was almost through the book. And he said the fact that she had the book in her hands mesmerized him so much. He was like, well, what's the name of this book? And then come to find out I was local. So he had me come in. He bought 25, 30 books, passed them out to all the kids. And so we started a book club behind that. And so in the book club, it went from prostitute to really just kind of discussing life. So that's kind of like how it always ended up happening. I didn't know him. He didn't know me. And he was just so mesmerized by the fact that this student was reading this book and she was excited about it. So,
but at the same time, she was someone who struggled to read.
Yeah.
But she found value in the book to where
he said she was pretty much through the book by the time he saw her with it. And he said he couldn't recall her finishing a whole book before. Mm-hmm. So he was like, it must be interesting. He got a copy, but it has always worked out like that. And so then when I get to sit down and talk to them, then everything else comes out. The book comes out, but then we get to talk about so many other things. And again, like I said, I'm an open book. I don't judge. I know that life happens. I know that life happens to you. So it just makes it a whole lot easier to, one, have been through a lot of the things that they're going through. And then the two, just like I said, to have this transparency that is almost it's never a curse, but it can be, because like I said, I don't even know how to be like, well, no, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, no filter. Yeah.
No filter at all. Whatever. Let's talk about it. Let's get it out. Because again, nothing grows in the dark but mold.
Mm-hmm. And so that has allowed you to connect with these kids because you've done something. You produced a piece of literature, something that they can go find on their own accord. And the title is pretty bold to where you read it, you know what it's talking about. So that language resonated with her in some way to where she was attracted to it. And so it opened the door for it. And that's all we can ever ask when we're trying to speak with the young kids, especially because they all have their language. And if you can find some kind of way to, tap into what they're talking about, they'll tell you everything and you'll be able to help in a much more impactful way.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And yeah, girls have always been my area of specialty. But again, I'm a girl.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what it feels like to be a boy in any type of trauma. I don't, and I'm not, so I leave things to where they should be. And, some young man out there who definitely has the ability to reach young men at that level. I have talked to boys in the past about things that may affect girls from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And how that makes me feel, not necessarily what you did or what you think, but this is how this makes me feel. So
your perspective.
Yeah.
It was recently that I heard about Terry Crews. He wrote a book where he was exposing I want to say some kind of sexual abuse as an adult. But the fact that he had the voice to write the book about it, he was talking about like how difficult that was, but the fact that people need to hear it from his perspective as a man, because a lot of times with that stigma, it's like, oh, you're a man, you can't go through stuff like that. But him opening up the door to express that, I'm sure he's tapped into a lot of people that just have that, hesitancy to open up and talk about it or get help in some kind of way. So I think it is, it's bold from either side, but either way is your perspective and it's going to resonate with someone. So he's just someone on the other end as a male that recently I heard about though.
Right. Yeah, I think I did. I him and Bobby Brown
okay,
recently on his reality show came out about his molestation. And I think because most of the time with men, it's almost like a misunderstanding of what molestation is. Because a lot of them run around like, yeah, I've been having sex since I was 8. What? That's not normal. So, and there's a level of pride behind it when they don't understand the dysfunction that comes with being exposed to something too early. So I am really glad that a lot more men are coming out saying that so that the ones who have been through it can say, okay, maybe, something was not right about that. Maybe that's why I go through the things that I do. But like I said, I don't usually talk to the boy group, but I try to make sure that I'm understanding where they're coming from so that I can have that conversation with young women.
Okay. And you said you have like maybe collaborated with other, I don't know if you've seen other men organizations or anything that focus on young men, but have you collaborated or anything like that?
When I was here before, I was working with an organization, and God forgive me, but I can't remember the name. And they have mostly men. Actually, 2017, I had my last group, which is the girls that we did the book club with. I haven't worked with directly with teenagers in such a long time that I just miss it.
Mm.
Everything I'm doing right now is indirect and throwing it to somebody to give to their organization, or so I haven't been able to touch young women emotionally or communication wise in probably 5 years, and it's been a struggle, but it's this is a different era for me right now. I'm so in the mood of writing and getting this information out to them so that they can have this, that I feel like I can reach more people this way than I did one-on-one.
For sure. That's just a way to pivot and kind of think about how you reach them. Did you say you were from Cleveland?
Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay, so you moved to Georgia. Like, how long have you been in Georgia then?
This time, 5 years. I was here 09 to 13. Then we moved back. It was my fault. And we moved back to Cleveland for 4 years, and then we moved back here in 2017.
Okay.
So we've been here. So a whole total of 9 years.
Total 9 years. Okay. Do you have kids?
Yes, all girls.
All girls. How many do 4 girls?
4 girls.
Oh, wow.
And a girl grandbaby. Yep. I think the joke continues because I know that I was supposed to do this because I'm a girl, clearly. My kids are girls. I had all girls, and I've never been the parent to be like, oh my God, I got all girls. I absolutely love having all girls. It's amazing to me because I feel like they all bring such a level of energy. No shade to boys, but it's usually I get that, oh my God, are you okay? You got girls. And I have a niece. So she's like my 6th person in my family, and I've always been around girls.
Yeah, that sounds very similar to my story. I have 4 sisters. And then I currently have 2 girls. And so it's like I'm surrounded by the female energy. I love it.
You see my shirt that says,
where there's a woman, there's a way.
There's a woman, there's a way. Yes. On purpose.
So naturally, I've had to embrace it my entire life. So I'm thinking about your kids to where it's like, of course you got it. Looking at who you are and the things that you have no filter for. It's like your kids have an open door to express that to mom. So has that like helped your relationship over the years as far as like just as a mom?
Yeah, because I realized that I don't know everything. My daughter asked me the other day, no, my niece said something the other day. She was like, well, you're supposed to know you're an adult. I said, is that what you think, how this works? I was like, only thing that really comes with being an adult is that you know not to keep making the same mistake. But every day we're faced with new experiences. So we have to get to that experience and figure it out. But we may make a mistake, and so then you just go back and try it over again. So when we were driving, the phone died, so we didn't have the GPS. And she was like, it said go southwest. Which way is that? And I was like, I don't know. She was like, well, Auntie, you the adult. Why you don't know? And I was cracking up like, baby, it don't work like that. Yeah. I've been playing with GPS as long as you have. So, and I told my youngest daughter, she's 15. I said, we don't know as much as you think. We just know what we know, and then we know when to change and when not to change. That's probably the experience that you don't have as a 15-year-old is you don't know that, okay, if I make this mistake, do something different. But once you keep doing it and you keep seeing it come back around, you'll get that same experience and knowledge. But that's pretty much it. Like each girl is different.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, they're so different. They drive me. Oh, I just got a headache. They're all different. They all eat different food. They all wear different clothes. They all like school at different levels. So this is perfect. Like they're like the perfect experiment all day long. Anything I ever need to know, I can probably go back in my kid database.
Yeah, with 4 of them, you got a lot of different things you could tap into.
Right.
That's kind of full circle where we started, where you're talking about overcoming obstacles. And it's like, you're going to be faced with things even as an adult, but the magic is when you can take these obstacles and then overcome them by saying, okay, I can learn from this and not making the same mistakes. And it's hard even as an adult, but we sometimes lock ourselves into that mindset of we're an adult. But I think smart people are the people that know they don't know everything. Like opening the door up to continue to learn and continue to push yourself, because I'm 32 years old and it's like, please, there's no way I can ever learn everything and assume that I know those things. So, hey, I have to humble myself to listen.
Right, exactly. And at 49, I'm doing the same thing. So you got a little bit more time for you to be sitting there like, yep, I'm gonna make that mistake again. You make mistakes in life, jobs, marriage, kids, the whole thing. And as a parent, some of those mistakes you hit yourself a little harder for because you feel like you're ultimately responsible for these kids and how they turn out.
Very
But
true.
at the end of the day, you're not. Like you can do what you can, you do what you know, and then you keep it moving. And what I did learn with this transparency is how to apologize. So my kids are 25, 27, 25, 17, and 15. So I got two different sets of kids. The first ones, they never got apologies. I said what I said. You do what I say, that whole mentality.
Yeah.
And then slowly but surely, I had to learn you can't treat those kids in the schools any different than you treat your own children. You would apologize to them if you said something rude. So why would you not give your children the same graces and the same respect? So you live and you learn. Keep learning.
Okay. Well, I know the storm may be coming and you're fighting bees over there, but is there anything quickly that you would like to share as far as how someone may get in touch with you or how they can reach out to you if they want to find any of your products or anything?
Yes. So I am definitely OMG Look What I Found is always where it is. OMGLookWhatIfound.com, and that is our online business. As I am working currently on the website, but you can always find me at MeLisaCollins.com. That's my author page. So I'm anywhere on Facebook. You can look me up, MeLisa, MELISASAMIA Collins.com, at Gmail, on Instagram. I'm pretty much everywhere up under that name as well.
Okay. So basically we can just speak your name out and you'll just show up.
Just say it out loud. That's it.
Set the intention.
It makes it so much easier. And now the problem is don't put two S's in the MeLisa because it's MeLisa, not Melissa, but
we go with one S for MeLisa.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, I will make sure that I get all of these links plugged in so that people can follow up. You said that website is where they can find the books and things that you published as well?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'm working on getting everything up under one website. So right now, MeLisa Collins is up and running. So you can go there, but hopefully within the next 30, 45 days, everything will be up under As I Am. You can find all of our products there, including our books, OMG, everything will be up under one link.
Okay, sounds good.
So you gotta look for me too far.
All right. Well, thank you for your time today. I'll let you get out of here, but until next time, take care.
Thank you. I appreciate it.